Good morning. As President for Nissan Motor Company, I would like to extend to you a warm welcome and thank you for coming to the Nissan Ordinary Shareholders Meeting today. In accordance with the Articles of Incorporation of the company, I will preside over the general meeting today. Allow me to offer our deepest condolences and sympathies to all those affected by the novel coronavirus outbreak. We would also like to express our heartfelt gratitude to healthcare professionals who are putting themselves at risk on a daily basis to take care of people, with many of them on the front lines. As we've indicated in the convocation letter, we are downsizing the meeting significantly in order to prevent the spread of the pandemic. Now, I hereby declare the opening of this 121st Ordinary General Meeting of Shareholders of Nissan Motor Company Limited. In order to help prevent the spread of the pandemic, seats are arranged as follows. On the observers left on the stage, we have Mr. Kimura, Chair of the Board, and Mr. Toyoda, Chair of the Nomination Committee and Director in the front row. In the back row, we have Ms. Ihara, Chair of the Composition Committee and Director, and Mr. Nagai, Chair of the Audit Committee and Director. On the observer's right, we have Mr. Gupta, Director in the front row, and Mr. Sakamoto, Director, and Mr. Ma, CFO, in the back row. In the front row of the seats for the audience, we have Mr. Delmas, Mr. House, and Ms. Rogers, who are board members. Directors Mr. Snart and Mr. Fleurio are joining from France through video conferencing system. Our executives and staff members are wearing a mask as a general rule. Please allow us to take off our mask while speaking so that you can hear us clearly. I hereby submit as matters to be dealt with at this meeting the proposed items as stated in the notice of the convocation. I have a few requests in order to make this general meeting run smoothly. Your cooperation would be highly appreciated. Please understand that this general meeting is wholly broadcasted through the internet in order to give access to people who were not able to join us on site today. I will notify you when we reach question and answer session, so please reserve any questions or comments, including a motion for that session. I would appreciate your understanding. In case a foreign director or officer gives an answer or explanation, it will be simultaneously interpreted into Japanese. Vote on proposed items and motions will be based upon your applause and shareholders voting, which occurred prior to the meeting by voting forms and the internet, as well as those who voted by power of attorney. Please be aware that the voting results will be determined by all the votes taken that I mentioned earlier. To prevent the spread of the pandemic, we would like to conclude the meeting, including the Q&A session, in 1 hour and end the session around 11 o'clock. I would appreciate your cooperation. I will give you a report on the number of voting rights held by the shareholders present today. Please look at the screen. As you can see on the screen, The combined total of the number of voting rights held by the shareholders who have submitted a notice of exercise of voting rights forms or exercised their voting right through internet and that of the shareholders in attendance amount to 80.9% of the total number of voting rights held by all shareholders. Accordingly, I now declare that the quorum necessary to deliberate on the full agenda of this general meeting has been met. Before the business report and deliberation of proposed items, I would like to present the audit results provided by the independent auditors and the audit committee. The independent auditor's report on consolidated financial statements is attached to page 44 and 45 in the notice of convocation. The independent auditor's report on the financial statements is attached to page 46 and 47 in the notice of convocation. The audit report of the audit committee is attached to page 48 and 49 in the notice of convocation. The audit committee states that the proposed item and documents submitted for this general meeting are in full compliance with all relevant laws and regulations and with the company's articles of incorporation and has found no specific matters on which to remark.
それではまず
Now, I would like to share with you the business report for the fiscal year 2019 and our performance recovery program. Following this, we will review with you the items to be resolved today. In fiscal year 2019, global total industry volume fell 6.9% to 85.73 million units due to the slowdown in the China market and stagnation of global markets as a result of the outbreak of the COVID-19. Nissan sales outperformed the market in China, but our global sales volume decreased 10.6% to 4,930,000 units given the significant slowdown of TIV in the fourth quarter, as well as the decrease in sales primarily in North America and Europe. These are the headline financial results for fiscal year 2019 based on the equity accounting method for our joint venture in China. Consolidated net revenues declined to 9.879 trillion yen, resulting in an operating loss of 40.5 billion yen and net loss of 671.2 billion yen. In addition to the negative impacts of external factors, including forex impact, regulatory and product enrichment costs, and rising commodity prices, our automotive profitability was affected by the decrease in sales volume as we suffer from an aging product portfolio and limited profit contribution from our efforts to normalize sales. In fiscal year 2019, we incurred restructuring charges and impairments in business assets of 603 billion yen as we transformed the business to improve profitability and achieve sustainable growth. While free cash flow for the automotive business deteriorated to a negative 641 billion yen, Nissan continues to have healthy levels of cash for the automotive business and sufficient funding available to meet our cash needs during this crisis. At the year-end, cash on hand for the automotive business totaled 1.495 trillion yen and automotive net cash was 1.065 trillion yen. In addition, the company continues to have access to approximately 1.3 trillion yen in credit lines, which remains unused. Furthermore, we raised additional 712.6 billion yen in funding this April and May. For fiscal year 2020, we currently estimate global TIV to decline by approximately 15% to 20% from the prior year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, uncertainty remains. It is difficult to reasonably forecast an outlook for fiscal year 2020 at this time. We will issue the fiscal year 2020 forecast as soon as we are able to make a reasonable projection for the year. Given the latest situation of the free cash flow and funding for the fiscal year 2019, our outlook on profitability and free cash flow for the fiscal year 2020, as well as the necessity of investments for future development to increase our competitive edge, Nissan decided not to distribute the year-end dividends for the fiscal year 2019. Let me express my sincere regret to our shareholders. We cannot afford any delay in investments on future technologies and product developments. We believe that this is the right thing to do in order to transform our business to ensure steady growth and increase the corporate value of Nissan. We take the situation very seriously. In order to share the pain with the shareholders who have to give up the dividends and our employees who are coping with challenges and restrictions, including temporary shutdowns, the top management decided to reduce and give up part of the executive compensation upon the Compensation Committee's approval. Now, I would like to present the business transformation plan, Nissan Next. Since Nissan announced the Nissan Power 88 midterm plan, the company has been pursuing a strategy of expansion with a focus on emerging markets based on expectations of growing demand. Although we sowed the seeds, we were not able to grow them effectively. As a result, Nissan was unable to harvest. In addition, due to massive investments made around the world, Nissan was not able to launch new products in key markets, particularly in Japan. About 2 years ago, we started shifting away from this expansion strategy. However, we have been left with a situation where we have a global production capacity of around 7 million units, but annual sales of less than 5 million units. To continue our business and generate a profit under these conditions have been extremely difficult. For Nissan to overcome the situation, we must admit our mistakes and correct course. We must resolve the issue of redundant assets from which we do not expect sufficient returns. We must therefore prioritize and focus by constantly allocating resources to core markets and core segments. Nissan is determined to take all these actions without compromise. The key focus of our plan is to ensure steady growth instead of pursuing excessive sales expansion. Concentrate on core competencies while enhancing the quality of our business alongside financial discipline, and restore a culture defined by Nissan Next for the new era. By focusing on these areas, we aim to build a business foundation by the end of the fiscal year 2023 that is robust enough to compete effectively for the next decade. Nissan is focusing on 2 key areas in the Nissan Next. The first is rationalizing the businesses. In this area, we are reorganizing operations from which we do not expect sufficient returns, reducing excess production capacity, and carrying out structural reforms. Specifically, we are optimizing production capacity, rationalizing our global product lineup, and through our efforts to optimize other expenses, we will significantly reduce fixed costs. The second area is prioritization and focus. Here, with robust management, we will make ample investments to deliver a solid recovery and steady growth in the identified core areas. Let me now provide more details on how we are rationalizing our businesses. The reductions we are making in production represent a 20% cut globally in the 7.2 million unit capacity that we had in the fiscal year 2018. We will move to a 5.4 million unit production footprint under normal production shifts. We will close our production plant in Indonesia. We intend to close the Barcelona plant and will begin discussions and preparations. On the product side, we are streamlining our portfolio down to core models. By concentrating our resources in the core models, we are able to develop products with greater value and competitiveness. We will also lower the average age of models, bringing it to 4 years or less. Specifically, by the end of the fiscal year 2023, we will discontinue older cars and trucks as well as models unique to a single region and withdrawing the Datsun brand in Russia, reduce the number of models in our portfolio from 69 to 55. This represents a reduction of approximately 20% from the fiscal year 2018 level and will enhance our product competitiveness. We are improving our cost base significantly through various actions, including reduction of general and administrative expenses by 15%. We are reducing fixed costs by approximately 300 billion yen and will work to maintain that cost base going forward. Let us look at our work to prioritize and focus in 3 areas: markets, products, and technologies. Nissan is focusing on Japan, China, and North America, including Mexico, as our core markets where we concentrate resources and ensure healthy business operation. For the rest of the regions, we are maximizing the use of the alliance assets and developing appropriately sized businesses. We will withdraw from Korea where we see limited opportunities. Japan is Nissan's home market, and we are refocusing accordingly. We have a strong foundation that we have been developing over the years. We will enrich the lineup consisting of more attractive products with practicality and advanced technologies that offer value to our important customers in this home market. In Japan, more than 90% of our customers appreciate our e-power and ProPilot technologies. By focusing on our electrification and autonomous driving technologies, we aim to build greater brand value and regain market share. As a starter, Nissan unveiled the all-new Nissan Kicks e-Power last Wednesday. Its sales will start tomorrow on June 30th. We are counting on the all-new Nissan Kicks e-Power to drive our brand and sales in Japan. We are going to hold the world premiere of the all-new Ariya crossover EV on July 15th. The highlight of the all-new Ariya is the fusion of electrification and advanced driver assist technologies that is expected to devolve into self-driving car in the future. The all-new Ariya equipped with the ProPilot 2.0 advanced driver assist technology and the latest e-powertrain is coming to the home market first before being deployed across the world. We expect the all-new Ariya to play a key role as a brand driver and the face of Nissan for the new era. Nissan maintains strong presence in the world's largest market, China, as we continue our healthy business operations. China is expected to enjoy further growth and prosperity. As part of our Nissan Intelligent Mobility strategy, in addition to having 7 EVs in our lineup, we will launch our e-power technology in core products. In the United States, over the past 2 years, Nissan has shifted its focus from fleet sales to pure retail and has been working to normalize sales. Although we are taking significantly more time than initially expected, we are rationalizing further, including reducing fixed costs and the revision of the product plan to recover our performance. As we work to normalize sales, we are starting to see results from the launch of the new Sentra last year. On June 15th, we revealed the new Rogue, the top-selling SUV in the market. The sales will start this fall. New product offensive is starting with the new Rogue. We also have a series of enhancements planned for our SUVs and pickups. These include the new Pathfinder, the new QX60, and the new Frontier. Let me talk about our offensive strategy. We are introducing at least 12 new models in the next 18 months. We are applying electrification and advanced driver assist technologies, which are our strength, to more models to renew and enrich our product offer. By adding 2 new EVs, we are on track to launch more than 8 100% EVs by the end of the midterm plan. Another pillar of our electrification strategy is e-power. As we expand our e-power offerings globally, we forecast electrified vehicles to account for 60% of our sales in Japan, 23% in China, and 50% in Europe, resulting in sales of more than 1 million units by the end of the fiscal year 2023. Nissan is also a leader in autonomous driving in terms of product application and technological excellence. For example, the new Skyline is equipped with the ProPilot 2.0, which is the world's first advanced driver support system with a hands-off function. As of March this year, we have sold around 700,000 vehicles equipped with ProPilot features. Our autonomous drive system will be introduced in more than 20 markets in 20 models in 20 markets by the end of fiscal year 2023. Sales of ProPilot equipped vehicles are expected to reach more than 1.5 million units per year by the end of the fiscal year 2023. So far, I have been outlining the business transformation plan and initiatives to achieve steady performance recovery through prioritization and focus. By implementing all of these actions and under certain economic and market conditions, Nissan aims to complete its strategy in the next 2 years and return automotive free cash flow to a healthy level. By the end of the fiscal year 2023, we aim for our global market share to reach 6% and our core operating margin to increase to 5% as a bottom line based on the equity method accounting basis, which includes the proportionate share of our Chinese joint venture. We are resolved to take all the steps necessary without any compromise to rebuild a solid foundation that enables Nissan to effectively compete for the next decade. This is an overview of the Nissan Next business transformation plan. Last June, Nissan transitioned from the board of statutory auditors to the 3 statutory committee format with the approval of the shareholders. We are increasing transparency of decision making and ensure quick and agile business operation by clearly separating execution and supervision. Nissan is working hard to restore confidence while recovering its performance. To finish, let me share some thoughts with you. In the past several months, the COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to change our lifestyles. I rediscovered that Nissan's long-term mission is to enrich people's lives through cleaner and safer mobility and energize the society. Nissan is constantly delivering new values to customers. To do this, we continue to take on challenges and make breakthroughs. This is Nissan's DNA. I am committed to put Nissan back on a growth track. Our pathway to recovery will not be a smooth one, yet Nissan is blessed with extremely talented employees. We are working together to overcome the crisis. What I want to see is for Nissan to retain its Nissan Next. Nissan is about people focus and pursuing technologies and services, products relevant to customers. Nissan's electrification initiatives are not only for a better environment. Our technologies and products offer driving pleasure. This is demonstrated by the new driving experience of the e-Power and the soon-to-be revealed Ariya, a car that offers an amazing driving experience and excitement. Our autonomous driving technology is also designed to assist customers around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought significant changes to our lifestyles. The auto industry is at a major turning point. Even in this challenging environment, or even in face of the new lifestyles, Nissan intends to keep on taking on challenges that only Nissan can to enrich people's lives. We thank you for your ongoing support.
それでは
Now, let me review with you the item to be resolved today. I would like to present the election of 12 directors due to expiration of terms of all directors. The term of office for all of the current 12 directors will expire at the closing of this meeting. In accordance with the decision of the nomination committee of the company, it is proposed that the 12 directors be elected to a one-year term, which term will expire as of closing of the 2020 general meeting of shareholders. The candidates are Mr. Yasushi Kimura, Mr. John Dominic Senard, Mr. Masakazu Toyoda, Ms. Keiko Ihara, Mr. Moto Nagai, Mr. Bernard Delmas, Mr. Andrew House, Ms. Jennifer Rogers, Mr. Pierre Florio, Mr. Ashwani Gupta, Mr. Hideyuki Sakamoto, and myself, Makoto Uchida. The candidates and brief records of their careers are provided on page 6 to 17 of the Notice of Convocation. This is all the item to be resolved today.
それでは
Before receiving your questions regarding the proposed items, I would like to talk about our dividend policy and executive compensation, as well as other items in which many of you expressed interest in the advanced questions we received by emails prior to this meeting. I would like to tell you about the dividend policy in the future. This time again, we are very sorry to say that we do not plan to distribute a year-end dividend for fiscal year 2019. The company positions the return of profits to shareholders' return as one of the important management policies and aims to distribute stable dividends considering the level of cash on hand, the results and outlook of profits and free cash flow, the necessary investment for the future, and other factors. But currently, the business environment is extremely uncertain and difficult for the company, which is promoting the structural reform of the business in addition to the COVID-19 pandemic. It is our priority not to slow down investment in the future and to improve corporate value by fundamentally reforming our business and strengthening our financial base through steady growth going forward. To that end, we believe that the minimal hurdle for review dividend is to return the free cash flow in the automotive business into positive and return the net cash in the automobile business to a certain level. We are aiming for the free cash flow to become positive at the latest in the second half of the fiscal year 2021, and we will make every effort to resume the return of shareholders' return as soon as possible. Your kind understanding and continued support will be highly appreciated. Let me talk about the executive compensation. Faced by the financial challenges for the fiscal year 2019 and the negative business impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, we made the following decisions. For last year, CEO and COO gave up the total amount of variable compensation for the fiscal year 2019 that they were entitled to while they served as executive officers. Some of other executive officers gave up their variable compensation for fiscal year 2019. For the fiscal year 2020, Nissan froze pay raise of the annual basic salary for management and above, including corporate officers, since April for at least 6 months. In addition, CEO reduced his annual basic salary by 50%. Executive officers other than CEO reduced by 30%, and the rest of the corporate officers reduced by 20% for the first half. The management members of the company are united as one team and continue to implement the business transformation plan explained today with unflinching determination. Lastly, I would like to talk about the third item. I would like to emphasize on what we are doing to strengthen our Japanese operations. Nissan is a global company, but Nissan was born in Japan. Nissan's home market is here in Japan. If the home market doesn't get better or re-energize, the other markets cannot grow stronger. We strongly recognize that increasing Nissan's presence in the Japan market is of utmost importance. Specifically, we will introduce to Japan market mainly competitive models equipped with cutting-edge advanced technology such as e-Power and ProPilot that are highly appreciated by customers. As a result, we would like to improve our brand value and restore our market share. With regards to the new cars released last year, both Days and Skyline won a number of accolades, including the Japan Car of the Year. And today, these two remain strong. While maintaining the momentum of these two models, we launched the new Rooks in March this year. The Rooks have sold about 28,000 units so far, and we would like to translate this momentum to the new Kicks e-Power, which will be launched tomorrow. Furthermore, we will add 2 new electric vehicle models and 4 models equipped with e-Power in Japan market by the end of fiscal year 2023, including the new crossover EV Ariya announced last month. in next month. In this way, in the future, we will continue to introduce attractive new cars to Japan market to strengthen and to expand the lineup. First, we will revitalize Japan market, which is our home market, and spread the momentum to the global market.
決議事項
We are now going to receive your questions, opinions, and remarks, including the motion. In order to smoothly facilitate the Q&A session, I have a few requests. I will nominate questioner in order of the ticket number, so that as many shareholders as possible can ask questions. The number of questions and length of time allotted to each shareholder will be limited to one question and to be asked within 2 minutes. Questioners are requested to use the microphone in the center of the floor so that everyone can hear. You are kindly requested to keep wearing your mask while you ask your questions in order to prevent splashes. As I mentioned at the beginning, this meeting is broadcasted through the internet. So please state your attendance number before asking your question, and please try to be concise so that we can address as many shareholder questions as possible. When the proposed items have been fully deliberated, the Q&A session may be closed, even though not all persons who hold tickets have asked questions.
株主の方
Ticket number 1, please state your attendance number and then ask your question. Thank you.
出席
0021 is my attendance number. Before asking you a question, just one thing, Mr. Uchida. I have a proposal. Earlier, Uchida-san, you said that you will end this session around 11 a.m. However, my proposal is as follows. What I thought is that today, just look at the people who received the tickets to ask questions. Please take all the questions. Because in this COVID-19, I didn't want to come over. I didn't want to show up. But you generated more than 600 billion yen of losses. But we came here to ask questions and express opinions. These are the people here who are showing up in this Nissan Hall. And looking around, you are preventing 3 C's, the close contact, crowded place, and closed space. You said you were going to end at 11 a.m. But could you extend it to 11:30? For example, based your decision, Mr. Uchida, please be flexible in arranging this meeting. This is my proposal.
株主様の
With regards to the proposal given, considering that you have come, we are here ready to accommodate as many questions as possible. Thank you, Mr. Uchida. Let me ask a question. 1 question per person in 2 minutes. That was the limitations. So let me change my question. Compensation reduction. With regards to compensation reduction, as far as I understand, Executive Officer Mr. Uchida, you are reducing by 50%, and the rest of the 6 executive officers, 30% reduction. That's what you said. And 44 corporate officers reduced by 20% during 6 months. And with this, you are saying 12 out of 12 directors, those who don't have a responsibility of executive officers, there are 9 of them. These 9 directors, there's no compensation reduced for the 9 directors. And this is my question, by the way. This compensation cut that you are making, Ihara-san, who is chairing compensation committee, it seems like you are managing this. That's what I heard in the media reports. Ihara-san, you answered this question. My question is as follows. Directors, as I said, those directors, these 9 directors who are not holding executive officer's position, these board members, these 9 board members, please reduce the compensation of these 9 people. Oh, before that, why aren't you cutting the compensation of these 9 directors who are not holding the executive officer's position? You should do it. I absolutely think that this is necessary. More than 30%. More than 30% of reduction of compensation should take place for these 9 directors. Ihara-san, what's your answer? And there's another thing. Uchida-san, not only reducing executive compensation, but also general employees, especially the managers. No, this year in the spring labor offensive, most of the companies did not increase the wage, but against the 3,000 yen demand from labor union, you agree to increase your wage by 1,000 yen. This is unbelievable. So managers, are you thinking about cutting compensation for managers? Toyota, look at Toyota. Last summer, Toyota decided to reduce the compensation of managers last summer. That's what Toyota did. So Uchida-san, what's your policy about the compensation for managers at Nissan? So as I said, Ihara-san and Uchida-san, please answer my questions. Thank you.
私へのご質
Thank you. I would like to start with the question which is pointed at me. Starting with the current situation of Nissan, the responsibility of the top management, CEO, myself, and executive officers and corporate officers, the top management will be holding all the responsibilities. In the Nissan Next business transformation plan, first we are focusing on solidifying the foundation business and bring Nissan back on growth track. And we, the executive officers and corporate officers, are sharing the pain with a strong determination to bring Nissan back on track. So with regards to the rest of the management, pay raise is frozen. As I said, for the rest of the factors, this is not considered. What we announced last time, we would like to implement the program as we promised. We would like to deliver the results as we promised. That's what we are determined to do. And going back to the first question, Ihara-san, please.
報酬を担
Thank you. My name is Ihara, responsible for the compensation matters. I appreciate your question. So with regard to reduction of compensation for the executives, with regard to performance-based, and also with regard to responsibility of execution of functions, these are not applied to the directors. The reason why these rules are not applied. From June last year, we have shifted to a 3 statutory committee format company. As a result, the board and the 3 committees have attempted to enhance governance through very close coordination. With regard to we are concerned about the current environment whereby the executive officers can take appropriate responsibility. And also, as the board, it's important that as the members of the board, we supervise the company in an independent and fair manner. Going forward, the challenge is to improve and recover our business performance and also to improve the enterprise value. So that being the case, the separation of supervision and execution, this is what is being required under the Company Act. For example, feasibility and the appropriateness of business plan being compiled by the executives. The role of the board, independent board, is to monitor the execution. So from that perspective, in order to clarify the responsibility this time around, with regard to business operation and business execution, compensation based on responsibility, we have not taken any measures related to responsibility in relation to the execution of business. We would like to continue to take into account the intentions of the shareholders and the stakeholders. It's important that this be considered in the perspective of the management. Would appreciate your continued support. Thank you.
So what's your answer? These 9 directors had not cut their compensation. Am I right to say that? Yes. At the compensation committee, we had a lot of discussion on this subject. So we look at the benchmarked companies. We did market research. And with regards to the poor performance of company and COVID-19 impact, which may translate to poor performance. Since this timing, compensation committee has been looking into this subject. Some of the people express opinion to reduce the compensation for the rest of the board members. So as a result of careful discussion, we look at what other benchmark companies are doing as well as the business climate. And after all the thorough discussions, we came to a conclusion that because we transitioned to 3 statutory committee format, separation between execution and supervision is what is required in the Companies Act. So in order to make it clear, we came to this conclusion. Thank you. So I'm asking you just to make sure. So you're saying that 9 directors are not reducing their compensation. Am I right? Yes or no, please? Yes, for this time, we haven't cut the compensation for the directors. Okay, that's fine. But they are not executive officers. I know that. I'm sorry for the lengthy question. However, okay, let me be candid. Ihara-san, 2 years ago, in June, you were appointed as an outside director. It's the same for Toyota-san, right? Nagai-san, you are the other one. So, my message is as follows. In these years, you have been with Mr. Gon. And you didn't do anything about the misconduct by Mr. Gon. You didn't supervise him. That's one thing that you should recognize. So I believe that 9 directors who do not hold the executive officer's position should take a responsibility, should be held responsible for this. So you should show it through the compensation reduction. Because we, the shareholders, do not have any dividends. You should share the pain with the shareholders. Because you haven't fulfilled your responsibility. Well, even if I say more, it will be needless. It will be it will get nowhere. So I will stop here. But for the supervision, business execution, please make sure you are fulfilling your responsibility. Thank you very much.
それでは
Thank you. Ticket number 2, please state your attendance number and then your question, please.
はい
0081, sorry. Audit Committee. In the audit report given by Audit Committee, I have a question to Mr. Nagai, who is chairing the Audit Committee. Today, Nissan has been violating a lot of rules and laws and regulations many times. And despite this, in the audit report, it says that there is no significant facts representing violation of laws and regulations. That's what this audit report says. What does this mean? And what is the violation that I am pointing out? It's registry, commercial registry. Article 915 of Companies Act, within 2 weeks, you need to make a commercial registration, right? And last time, at the 120th Ordinary General Meeting of the shareholders, I pointed this out. And at that time, Saikawa-san, who used to be a CEO at the time, he admitted that this was a fact, and he said that he apologized, saying that this should never happen. And naturally, you said that he said that he will make sure he will not do the same thing again, and he will make sure you are doing things right. That's what he said at the shareholders meeting. And despite this, many times you are repeating this. For the registration of the directors, the registry, if you look at Nissan's report, it's obvious. I mean, you can see it that you haven't made any. It's not once or twice. There was an extraordinary general meeting of the shareholders many times. There were sudden replacements of the executives, and every time, most of the registrations were largely delayed. What is the reason behind this? Why are you neglecting this for so long? Now, I mean, you transitioned to 3 statutory committee format, I understand. And you said that you are ensuring compliance, stronger governance. But it hasn't changed. Rather, it's getting... Before Mr. Gon's incident, this never happened. But now you are violating this law so many times. It seems like things are aggravating or deteriorating. And after the reorganization, the audit committee, I pointed this violation last time. But many times, the company is violating this. but you haven't made any significant remarks. At the shareholders meeting, oh, my question is as follows. At the shareholders meeting, you admitted. Why aren't you reporting this violation at the shareholders meeting? Or audit committee? Audit committee. Maybe you haven't grasped or recognized. You weren't aware of this violation. Your explanation, please.
はい、ただいまのご質問に
Thank you. With regard to your question, I would like to invite Chairman Mr. Nagai to respond to this question. Thank you for your question. So, with regard to the format of the registration, this is an individual matter, so I would like to respond later on. So, with regard to the fact that we've transitioned to a 3 statutory committee format, and the audit committee has been effective in improving governance, I believe that is the concern that you have. So let me try to address that. So with regard to the report on the improvement of the governance, they have specific issues that relate to 38 items. So we would like to respect those items. And with regard to implementation of these items, we have been monitoring the status of implementation. After transitioning to a 3 statutory committee format, under the new governance format, as far as the audit committee is concerned, we have been appropriately monitoring the activities of the executive as well as the board. In particular, when it comes to internal audit division, in order to heighten the independence of the internal audit division, the audit committee is supervising this. And also, we now have a system whereby we can provide instructions to the internal audit division. So in order to prevent recurrence, it's important that we actively utilize the internal audit system and also finance, accounting, compliance, and risk control related divisions in the company. And also with regard to collaboration with audit firms, we have been strengthening that so they will be able to detect any potential issues and also so they will be able to enhance the implementation of the audit. We would appreciate your understanding of those activities. Now, having said that, going back to your question on hand, this is a matter which we are monitoring at the audit committee. With regard to the procedures, this has been somewhat time-consuming. That is what we have heard from the executive side. So therefore, so that there is no delay in the registration, we'd like to continue to monitor the situation accordingly. Thank you.
It's the same for the earlier question. Why aren't you answering my question? I pointed out that in this audit report given by audit committee, why aren't you admitting or recognizing that there's a violation? If you're saying that you're not going to violate going forward, but you have to admit that there was a violation in the audit committee. Why aren't you saying that in your audit report? This is my question, but you're not answering my question here. Oh, thank you. So, according to your answer, you said that registry, you recognize the delay in the registration. You are aware of the delay in registration, but you pointed out to the business execution side, but this is not rectified. But this is unnatural. The delay of the registration is unnatural. One example, Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta. Looking at his registration, as a reason for registration is set on December 1st of 2019, you assumed the position. But registration of executive officer took place on the January 16th of 2020. It's 1 month late. And on the same day, on 25th of March 2020, he became a representative executive officer. On December, at the board, on the very day you decided to appoint Mr. Gupta. But executive officer and director, why are you registering it on the separate days? Executive officers and representing executive officers, were they decided on separate days at the board meeting? Especially for the appointment for December? For Uchida-san as a representative executive officer, he assumed the position on the very day. On the 17th of December in 2019, this was registered. Why for Uchida-san as a representative executive officer, your registration was done within December, but not for Mr. Gupta, who assumed the position on the same day. Why are you delaying the registration for Mr. Gupta for more than a month? Shareholder, sir, this is very unnatural. Please explain why this is so unnatural. I mean, the dates are totally different between the two gentlemen.
ご質
With regards to that question, we wouldn't say this is not as material, so this is not indicated in the audit report. Nagai-san is whom I want to answer, so I want Nagai-san to answer this question.
的のですね、
With regard to the registry that you raised in your question, as you pointed out, yes, it is a fact that it has been a time-consuming process. And I believe that the execution side is now making various preparations as far as we're concerned. So that we would like to make sure that with regard to execution, we monitor the situation so that this procedure could be done in an expeditious manner. Thank you.
監査の方
Please ensure strong audit so that this will never happen. Understood. Thank you for your opinion, sir. Ticket number 4. Please come forward to ask your question. Please give us your attendance number and ask your question. Thank you.
Ah, 00
0025 is my attendance number. US and China sales volume in these markets are still declining. And for China, I understand that other car makers are working hard. So Nissan's sales proportion in China is falling. That's my impression. And what I want to tell you is that share price is less than 400 yen. It's 300 yen level. In February at the shareholders meeting, you said that you are going to keep 500 yen per share as a share price. However, in reality, there's a big drop. As Nissan Motor Company Limited, what are you doing on the share price side, stock price? Uchida-san, what's your policy around the stock price? What are you doing to increase the value of share? Thank you for your question. Yes, share price. How to bring share price to a healthy level is what the top management is working on, focusing on as a mission. And in the Nissan Next business transformation plan, we are setting forth achievable objective, a challengeable and achievable sales objective. And after setting this sales objective, we are making our financial discipline stronger. In the past years, we have been announcing financials that we have been making profit warnings many times. Therefore, for this time, what we showed you as a forecast is a level that is feasible, achievable, the level that we can deliver. This is how we would like to restore confidence in the market. If we restore confidence of the market, the share price will come back. So this is what we would like to implement. And as you said, in China too, there was an impact of COVID-19, but it is growing year on year in the past 2 months. So together with all the regions around the world, we are trying to bring Nissan back on solid growth track.
それでは
Moving on to ticket number 5. Ticket number 5. Please ask your question. Please give your attendance number and then ask your question. 87 is my number. 87. Before asking you a question, shareholders, as shareholders said, Mr. Gon. There was top management is not talking about Mr. Gon at all. How do you feel about Mr. Gon now? I mean, it's not really my question, but this is my opinion, just my opinion. In the convocation letter, you on page 31 and 32, you find the profiles of the board members, and including these board members in the profile on the stage, we have only 8 people. It's very limited in number. Can't you bring more people on the stage? This only small number of people are on the stage. And another concern is that these mugshots on the convocation letter, non-Japanese people. These are non-Japanese people, number 9 and number 11. These are in non-Japanese names, so I can't pronounce their names. They don't have any shares in Nissan. Come on. No share in Nissan as part of the top management, and they have no Nissan share? I mean, all the top management people should own stake. I don't know how much stake they should hold, but at least they need. I know that there's no requirement in the articles of incorporation, but at least they should have some stake in Nissan, at least in the minimal requirement. What's your idea here?
貴重なご意見
Thank you for your valuable opinion. With regards to the last opinion, myself, we are all united to make Nissan better. And with regards to shareholding policy, we would like to consider. And the second question, your opinion. Today, because of the COVID-19, in order to prevent the pandemic, we put only limited number of people on the stage, but executive officers and directors are on the front line of the audience seat and are ready to answer your questions when any question is raised.
で初めに
And with regards to ex-chairman, we find it very regrettable. So just as we said last time, we will continue taking necessary actions on this matter.
それでは整理番号
Ticket number 6, please. Ticket number 6. Please give your attendance number and then ask your question.
出席は
Number 9 is my attendance number. My question is to Mr. Sonar, who is not here. There are 5 directors and they are French. There are 3 from Renault and 2 from Nissan, except for the outside directors. And it seems like Renault has a control over Nissan. So that's my question. So wouldn't Nissan and Renault collapse together, fall together? And the second one. So Nissan's born and bred talents will leave the company in this kind of circumstances. I like traveling and I go abroad and I take buses and I go to parking lot in hotel and I'm looking around what kind of cars or car brands are stopping on the streets. Then I find that the majority is Japanese makes and Germans. And Renault cars, I only see limited number of Renault cars. And when it comes to Renault's, that should be the real capability of Renault head office. If so, Japanese and Germans, strong points. Technological excellence is one of the benefits or strength of Germans and Japanese. But when it comes to French, well, in art, you may excel in art, French people are, but in terms of technology, they're weak.
なんていうのかな
I don't know how to put it, but
そこでルノーというか
so Renault or French people, I mean, it seems like it's weighing on Nissan's performance. So these are my 2 questions. These are my concerns. So the chairman, can you talk about this matter? The alliance. It has been the case in the past and going forward it will be the case as well. Renault, Nissan and Mitsubishi Motors, every alliance partner when it comes to should benefit from the alliance contribution in terms of revenue and profit. That's what alliance is about. It's a tool to increase competitiveness, and all 3 partners are faced with financial challenges. And the other day, on the 27th of May, we made an alliance communication. And for example, we said that Nissan is ensuring prioritization and focus. And in this, in region A or market A, for example, we use Renault developed car in the lineup if it is competitive for Nissan. This is how we are maintaining or enhancing Nissan brand using alliance assets. So what do you ask just now? Just because we are in alliance, it doesn't mean that talents are leaving just because we are in the alliance. Rather, we believe that taking into the account Nissan situation, we are looking for what alliance can contribute to Nissan, and Renault is doing the same, vice versa. This is what we are focused on in our discussion, and we would like to maintain the scheme. So each company will ensure its autonomy and independence, and put top priority in its own revenue and profit, and use alliance as a contribution.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. Okay, ticket number 7. Ticket number 7, please. Please give us your attendance number and then ask your question. Attendance number 22. My name is Honda. Before asking you a question, I would like to express my opinion as a shareholder. And after I express my opinion, Chair of the Board, Mr. Kimura, and Representative Executive Officer, Mr. Uchiro, I have questions to both gentlemen. And if necessary, I would like to ask outside directors to answer as well. In fact, last year at the general meeting of the shareholders, I said that in 3 years, Nissan will disappear if you do nothing. It has been 1 year. Time flies. And where is Nissan? Is Nissan going to a better direction? What's your opinion? Do you think Nissan is going to a better direction? Uchida-san, I was listening to your energetic presentation talking about performance recovery. 1 year ago, you said the same thing. Saikawa-san said the same thing last time. And before that, I heard the same message from Nissan. And this is the situation. You are starting the sales of new model after long years tomorrow, but I can't count much on this. If you think about what happened in the past. In the past 1 year, I have been hearing a lot of media reports. Nissan has been in a lot of commotion and turmoil, and performance is not stagnating. It's like plunging. Your results are plunging. That's what the media is reporting. And employees are people in the affiliates and individual shareholders. It seems like you are making our lives harder. We are kind of suffocating because of the situation. Without COVID-19, it would have been better. That may be your argument. But it's the same for other car makers, right? So once again, let me declare, if you do nothing, in 2 years, Nissan will disappear. That's my concern. Why are we here? As one of the shareholders, let me express my opinion. First off, what Nissan wants is a big transformation and reform under quick decision to come out of this crisis. And you shouldn't take a lot of time unnecessarily to transform or carry out the reform. You don't have a luxury of time. What you need now is top-down strong leadership. You shouldn't just spend time on the democratic discussion. We need dictatorship, a strong leader here, and a strong message from the top. Ironically, when Mr. Gon arrived at Nissan in 5 or 6 years, he made it a reality. That's what Nissan needs today. Of course, I mean, what Mr. Gon did in the past years cannot be accepted. But is Nissan under strong leadership now? In a nutshell, if you look at Nissan's top management, it seems like there are so many cooks, too many cooks. Too many cooks in the kitchen, it seems like. There's no center. There's no central function in Nissan. That's my impression. From employees' perspective, you don't know who is the real leader of this company. So my message as follows. Who is representative executive officer of Nissan? If you look at the documents, it says, oh, excuse me. Oh, 1 year ago, you established a new top management and transitioned to 3 statutory committee format with 3 committees, right? But this structure is double-bladed knife. When the performance is strong, it works well. It works well with this structure. But when the company is on the downturn, sir, when there's a, sir, if I may, please limit your the number of question to 1. So that is why I am expressing my opinions. Unless you understand what I'm trying to say, you will not be able to answer my question. Don't see it as a simple question. I mean, I need to talk. In the convocation letter, on pages 6 and onward, you talk about re-election of the directors and you find mugshots of each individual. At the top, we have chair of the board, Mr. Kimura. Usually, in the normal company, chairman of the board and the CEO is shown, and usually CEO, people with the title of CEO comes at the top page. But because of the new structure, Kimura-san is at the top page. What is this order or sequence here? At Nissan, who is at the top of Nissan? Is it represented in these pages that you see in the convocation letter? Is this the hierarchy? And the board is included as top management. If that is right, chair of the board, what kind of responsibility does he assume? Board members may be at top of the CEO as an institution, so you should elect the agenda, and the chair of the board should be the real top leader of Nissan with the biggest responsibility. But as a title, Uchida-san is a representative executive officer, right? That's your title. This is really ambiguous. This gives an impression that Nissan does not have a center. So under the new structure, you are ensuring better supervision on business execution. It sounds nice, but in reality, who is the top management? Maybe top management for you as a top management, you'll be concerned if someone is supervising you or checking you. You may feel uncomfortable because someone is watching you, right? So you'll be distracted, and you will make sure that the board members are appreciating you. Sir, excuse me, let me give another warning. You have spent 6 minutes, so in order to answer your question, please summarize your question, sir. Yes. So, my question is as follows. This is a question for Mr. Uchida. Today, you are carrying out the reform. What is the percentage of your plan which is in line with your own opinion or your thoughts? If you look at outside directors' activities, they are providing advice, expressing command, proposing the business execution. But how much of your ideas are incorporated into the business transformation plan? I'm sure that some of your ideas are rejected by board members. And you have do you think that you have an ultimate responsibility of running Nissan? If you find something uncomfortable in your position, what makes you easier to execute your plan? This is the question to Mr. Uchida. And starting with the question for Mr. Kimura. The leadership required by Nissan today is a strong top-down leadership, dictatorship, so to speak. Or do you think a council system where you spend a lot of time, discuss, more convincing, a democratic kind of structure or leadership is required? Which is better? And the second one, who is the top responsible person of Nissan? Do you think it's a chair of the board? Sir, there's another one. Kimura-san, as a chair of the board, if you say that you don't have a final responsibility of business execution or running the company. Representative Executive Officer Mr. Uchida, you should help him to ease his operation. So that did you agree on these rules that you suggested to ease Mr. Uchida's job with other board directors?
あの
Thank you. Allow me to respond to your question with regard to I am the one with the top responsibility in terms of the execution and management. So when it comes to Nissan Next, I am 100% leading this initiative. Of course, when with regard to looking back over the past, all the relevant executive officers and also various officers, we are in discussion with this people. I take the full leadership in this process. Also, the execution side is considered what is going to allow Nissan to revert to the path of growth. We make those proposals to the members of the board, and the members of the board against this proposal will monitor the execution side. And at the same time, when it comes to our strategy, will this be appropriate for the future of Nissan? This is what they're discussing at the board. So that being the case, inclusive of the board, with regard to the future growth of Nissan, we have a great deal of discussions. We receive advice from experts who have full know-how. That is my philosophy. And that is my view as the person who's leading the progress of the plan. So you mentioned that you have experts with knowledge that are on the board, and you have to reach a consensus among these people, which means that this is going to be a time-consuming process. You have a very large number of outside independent directors. To what extent do these people really understand things on the ground at Nissan? That is questionable for me. So I think you need to speed up the process, expedite the process. But Mr. Kimura, if you'd like to respond to this question, please. Thank you. I'm the chair of the board. Kimura is my name. Thank you for your question, sir. First, with the execution side, correction, the principle is separating execution and supervision. So as you pointed out, it's Mr. Uchida, who's the CEO, that is at the top side of the execution process. And he has the fullest authority in this regard. And as far as the members of the board are concerned, we appropriately supervise this execution. So we will allow execution to execute, but when we confer this to the execution side, we supervise in an independent, fair manner as to whether or not the execution is being promoted in an appropriate manner. So we will fully monitor and supervise the situation, and all the executions are being conducted in a selfless manner. This we will and so I think as Mr. Uchida is, of course, fully responsible for the execution side. Also, you pointed out whether or not strong leadership is required. Yes, strong leadership is required. We need power that will drive this process. But the basis and the premise for this is what policy, based on which policy is this company being managed? Decision of the policy is concerned. As we announced earlier, we have the midterm plan. And the execution side and the members and the board have discussed this and have created this and have decided on this process. And so that being the case, we are conferring the process to execution side, and we hope that the strong leadership will be taken to execute this process. So at the risk of repeating myself, the basic principle is separation of execution and supervision. And based on this full understanding, both sides must take their respective responsibility. That I believe is the basic principle. And that is the process which we're trying to implement. As far as the current situation is concerned, under the policy of Mr. Uchida, CEO, have been determined. So therefore, we need to support that process. That, I believe, is the role which we should play. So that is my response. Thank you very much.
ちょっと言ってん
Thank you. Just one thing. Outside directors, you are having IDC, Independent Directors Meeting, I heard, consisting of only outside independent directors. What's the intention behind having this kind of meeting?
あります。
I will stop here. Yeah.
それでは
特に
所定のご時間を
Yes, You have spent the time given. So there's no answer to this question, I understand, says the shareholder. So ticket number 8, please give us your attendance number and ask your question. Attendance number 0028. 0028. My question is as follows. What's a sales strategy and the full year outlook? As one of the Nissan challenges, you are overly relying on incentives to sell the cars which damage the brand. That's what it says. And the biggest impacts were seen in United States or North America. That's what media is saying. With regards to these issues, in order to rectify this overspending on incentives, what kind of improvements are you making in North America? Because this will result in smaller sales. Did you incorporate this expected negative impact? And when are you going to bring back the profit at which market share or which sales volume in US? And next is the full year outlook. Listening to you, it seems like because of the poor situation today, it's very difficult to come up with a specific outlook. But Toyota, who is a competitor, came up with 500 billion yen of profit as an outlook. Akio Toyota-san thinks that one is to take care of shareholders and share price. And also, he would like to reassure suppliers by giving out outlook. So Nissan, 20 years ago, announced a Nissan revival plan, and as a result, a lot of suppliers cried or were sacrificed. Are you going to sacrifice the suppliers once again, including parts suppliers? That's what people are paying attention to. So in order to reassure people, what you need to show some kind of outlook, including whether it's a profit or loss making, to reassure people. What do you say about this? For example, 4.93 million units was 2019, but this year it will be at 4 million units, or it will be lower, or what? In full year, you are going to generate another loss. It can be a rough estimate to reassure people. Thank you for your question. Full year outlook for fiscal year 2020. TIV is expected to fall by 15% to 20%. Against such backdrop, considering our market share, we have several scenarios on sales volume. Of course, our business partner suppliers, including the parts supply chain, we have to immediately show the mid and long-term perspective of the parts volume to suppliers. Considering the COVID-19 situation in each region locations, we will closely work with the suppliers. As you indicated, Nissan tended to pursue excessive expansion of sales, and as a result, we are left with overcapacity or redundant assets. Therefore, going forward, we are setting forth achievable and challengeable sales volume. This is what we are steering toward. This is the intent of Nissan Next. And the question is how we can concentrate on core markets and core technologies and bring Nissan back on growth track. That's the intent of what we announced on May 28th. So taking this into consideration, we are based on several simulations of sales volume, we are closely collaborating with the suppliers. And this is what we are going to strengthen because we are in uncertainties. And when you talk about North America where we overspend incentives, you are concerned that if you increase the quality of sales, we will lose sales. In 2019, in the third quarter, in North America, the performance declined largely because we focused on enhancing the quality of sales. So it was very difficult to strike a balance with sales volume. And the dealers' engagement was still a bit weak. That's the lessons learned in the third quarter last year. So this time, new Sentra was announced this year, and we are seeing better results, but it will take time. Therefore, without being desperate, we will carry out the performance recovery in the United States and North America. we will closely collaborate with the business partners to overcome the COVID-19 crisis and do come up with a plan to bring Nissan back on growth track together with the midterm performance recovery outlook. When we are ready, we would like to present it to you. Thank you.
それでは
Moving on to ticket number 10. Ticket number 10, please. Please give us your attendance number and ask your question.
すいません、どうも。
Thank you for this opportunity. I have a question. 0016 is my number. At this general meeting of the shareholders, Renault and Mitsubishi Motors and Nissan, you are sharing responsibilities and roles to bring companies back on track. And with Nissan Next, you are trying to promote electrification by thus helping Nissan to grow. That's what you presented, I understand. But in reality, when you talk about electrification, not only Nissan, but other car makers like Toyota and Honda are working very hard to promote electrification. So I don't think electrification alone will help recover your performance. When you look at Toyota, Toyota has had a long-term perspective and they are developing smart city. This is a new challenge for them. When you look at Honda, Honda is working on robots on two legs and airline jets. They are expanding their opportunities to create new world of new era. How about Nissan? We don't see a future vision of Nissan like that. So maybe you cannot answer the question right now, I understand. But next time at the shareholders meeting, could you talk about the long-term vision of Nissan? Along with this,
日産さん
Nissan has a lot of talented engineers. That's what you said in your presentation. Yes, I believe there are talented engineers in your organization. However, these technological excellence are not well used or well utilized, it seems like. Those who are attending here, the directors and executives who are here, have you ever seen the patents that Nissan owned? Please raise your hand if you have seen the list of patents that Nissan owns. Please raise your hand. There's no one? Oh, there are several. Okay, good. So, it's obvious if you look at the list of patents owned by Nissan. For 1.5 years, it's not disclosed. I don't know the recent years, but Nissan is really disadvantaged compared poorly with car makers. If you're going to protect your intellectual assets, you need to nurture talents in the areas of intellectual properties. If you cannot do it overnight, as far as I see, the company with good reason, Denso is really excel in this area. So maybe you cannot benchmark Denso. Maybe it's hard. But how about Mitsubishi Electric? You have an alliance with Mitsubishi Group, right? So how about benchmarking Mitsubishi Electric to learn from them? And value and nurture engineers. Then engineers will be highly motivated. So please think about this direction. Your answer, please, sir.
質問ありがとう
Thank you for your question. Intellectual assets and nurturing talents in this area? Yes, as you said, we have a system to nurture people in this area, and R&D Executive Officer Nakaguro-san will give further details. Nakaguro-san, the floor is yours.
ご質問
Thank you very much for your question. I'm in charge of R&D. My name is Nakaguro. Nissan's engineers, how to develop and make the best use of engineering talents and also patent. In Atsugi, we have 8,000 engineers working for Nissan. Around the world, there are 20,000 engineers working for Nissan. As you said, Nissan is in financial difficulties, but in the past 2 or 3 years, Nissan has never reduced the R&D budget. And our size of organization hasn't been downside. In terms of motivation of engineers, As CEO Uchida mentioned earlier, Nissan has many technologies which can be pillars, whether it's autonomous driving, electrification, and VVs. These, without slowing down, globally we are applying these advanced technologies. For example, ProPilot is applied to 700,000 cars around the world, which means that 700,000 users are using it, and we sold 500,000 EVs and 400,000 e-power equipped vehicles so far, and we are receiving reactions, feedbacks from these users. So customers highly appreciate Nissan technologies, including media, and this is the source of motivation for the engineers. And as you asked, the patents. As you said, lately it has been slowing down. This is a fact. But after I took this office, we have been appealing patents and protect intellectual assets. So we are trying to increase the number of patents, enhance the quality of patents, and increase the number of thesis paper that we are publishing, and we are seeing results. These are the actions that we are taking in order to motivate engineers and show the results or fruits that these engineers deliver to the customers so that we can keep the engineering ability of Nissan. We will continue working hard on this area. Nakaguro-san, thank you very much.
では、
Ticket number 11. Ticket number 11, please ask your question. Please give us your attendance number before this. Attendance number 75. 75. Thank you for this opportunity to ask a question. But for both companies' results and technologies are very important for a company. But the prerequisite or assumption for this should be credibility or confidence or trust. Uchida-san, I have a question about trust and confidence. In the business report, in the opening, it says that there was a significant misconduct by ex-chairman and others, and you are going to focus on restoring confidence and recover performance. What is lacking in Nissan today is credibility or trust or confidence today. So, my first question. Misconduct by ex-chairman and others. Does this include misconduct by Mr. Saikawa? That's what I understand. If Mr. Saikawa is not included in this significant misconduct by the executives, why don't you include Saikawa-san? And second question, what is the lack of trust in Nissan? This is my question. What's the fundamental question? Mr. Gon's misconduct, this is what you are asserting. Nissan is a company, when there's a doubt or suspicion, that without giving opportunity for Mr. Gon to make his argument, without inviting him to the board meeting, you let the prosecutors to arrest him and declare that this was a misconduct. Uchida-san, supposedly. If you are questioned, there's a doubt that you committed the misconduct without having an opportunity to argue in the board member, without any press conference, you were just detained. Is that a company that Nissan is? Today in the public, they are saying that Mr. Gon's arrest is a conspiracy between the prosecutors, top management, and METI in order to prevent the merger with Renault. That's a theory which is understood as a convincing theory among the public. If so, before being a shareholder, as a Japanese person, I feel embarrassed about this kind of ways that you are going about this subject. You should have solved this matter within the organization, but without organizing a board meeting, you involve the prosecutors to kick Mr. Gon out. This is a misconduct by itself. Prime Minister Abe, who is leading Japan, has said that this issue should have been resolved within the organization. In the market, there are people who say that they will never buy a car from such a company, Nissan. That's what I hear from many people. As far as this doubt or suspicion remains, no matter how many new models you introduce in the market, or no matter how much you present the benefits of alliance, consumers will never trust you. What's your reaction to what I say just now? Mr. Gon himself escaped outside Japan, so trial will not open for him. But Mr. Kelly, who is in Japan, if he is found not guilty, what are you going to do as Nissan? This is another part of question. Economic depression is resulting in COVID-19, and people want. I want Nissan to be a company where people want to support even under this economic depression. To this end, you need to regain trust. What is the real trust that is required for Nissan? So I don't want any superficial answer. Or are you going to face it? Together with many Japanese people, I would like to carefully listen to your reaction and answer.
ご質問ありがとうございます。
Thank you for your question. First, with regard to former chairman Mr. Saikawa, I would like to ask Mr. Nagai, the chair of the audit committee, to respond. But before that, in terms of restoring trust, and also in terms of restoring the brand, the confidence of the consumers to our brand, it is, as you have pointed out, ever since I became the president, I've always been mindful of the following. We need to restore internal trust within the company. Without restoring the internal trust, then we cannot restore the trust from outside the company. So from that perspective, unfortunately, in the past, there have been various cases which occurred in the past. And also, there have been a great deal of reports in the media. So that being the case, how do we explain these matters to the employees? How do we receive feedback from the employees and restore the trust of the people toward the company? Myself and all the executive officers on the stage, we have made efforts toward this end. Now, against that backdrop, we have been perhaps shifting our targets toward the short-term perspective. That was the case in the past, and as a result, various things occurred because she shifted to a focus on short term. So in order to return to the medium to long-term perspective, it is important that we rectify the situation on the ground. And at the same time, what should we deliver as values to the customers over the future? That is the series of discussions which we have had. So that being the case, restoring the trust and confidence, this is indeed a very important mission for the company, and we are firmly resolved to implement this. With regard to the cases that occurred in the past, as far as the facts are concerned, I would like to invite Nagai-san to explain these matters. Nagai-san, please. Thank you for your question. You have pointed out the need to restore the confidence, that this should be the first and foremost. I totally agree with your position, sir. Now, with regard to former chairman and also Mr. Greg Kelly, with regard to the misconduct by these two gentlemen, I know that in the media they have talked about this being a conspiracy, but there is no fact whatsoever to this argument. As you're probably familiar, the misconduct by the former chairman and etc. As far as these issues are concerned, we have created an internal team that have carried out robust investigation, and at the same time, outside experts such as law firms. We have retained outside law firm, and this is the result of joint investigation on our part. Also, at the year end, Mr. Carlos Ghosn fled the country. So the criminal trial was suspended. And the procedure related to the extradition of this person, I understand, is progressing. As a company, we are not privy to all the facts. But what is important is that with regard to the civil suit, as was reported at the extraordinary session of the General Shareholders meeting recently, with regard to damages, 10 billion yen suit to seek damages was presented to the Yokohama court. And even without the attendance of the person, we can proceed with this procedure. With regard to the criminal trial for Mr. Greg Kelly, yes, there is a delay, but this will be continued, though. This is continuing. So therefore, we believe that a fair decision will be made at that forum. And with regard to former CEO, Mr. Saikawa, the former CEO, we were not, well, regard to Mr. Saikawa, yes, there was a third-party investigation that was carried out, and as a result, it was determined that there was no misconduct. But there was no illegality. However, there was a violation of internal rules, unfortunately. So as far as the audit committee is concerned, we ask that he voluntarily return this. And with regard to moral responsibility, this was discussed at the board. And as a result, at the board, in terms of responsibility on the part of Mr. Saikawa, they asked for voluntary return. And also, they also pointed out that there was a moral responsibility. So again, there is no illegality, but because of the violation of the internal rules, he assumed the responsibility, and he voluntarily resigned from the company, and he returned the relevant payment on his own volition. That is all the report. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。ただ、
Thank you. However, unfortunately, I'll have to say that your answer is very disappointing. First off, Saikawa-san's misconduct, is this included in this audit report talking about ex-chairman and others' misconduct? It says ex-chairman and others. Does this include misconduct by Mr. Saikawa? Could you clarify whether he is included or not? But listening to your presentation, it was very unclear. You talk about voluntary return. So is it included or not? It wasn't clear in your answer, at least. And Uchida-san, you talk about trust. According to what you explained, it seems like it's about internal trust. That's what you emphasize. How about trust in the market, consumers' trust, or people, general public's trust? How about the trust of the outside world? What is the source of this trust of the people outside the company? You didn't talk about it much, did you? I mean, fundamentally, I don't think Nissan will rectify the root causes as far as you are not aware of the fundamentals, unfortunately. I mean, it may not be too late now. If you do it, start doing it now. Earlier, I asked you, if Uchida-san, if people had a doubt that you committed a misconduct, like Mr. Gon, without being invited to the board meeting, you're suddenly forced to detained, you're imprisoned, you cannot open any press conference. Will you accept this kind of treatment? I mean, this is one of the reasons for losing the trust of general public or consumers. I want you to answer this clearly, but if not, I will stop here. Sir, you spent more time than what is allocated. Thank you for your opinion. Okay, it has been quite since we started the Q&A session, so we would like to take two more questioners, two more people. Ticket number 12, please state your attendance number and then ask your question. 0091 is my attendance number. Okay, starting with a question for Mr. Uchida. You became CEO of last December, and at the extraordinary general meeting of the shareholders, on May 27th, you announced the Nissan Next business transformation plan. And you talk about prioritization and focus. And looking at the media reports, the details were very unclear. So, and you said the prioritization focus is core markets, core products, core technologies. These were the three key areas that you defined. But this is not very clear. I don't get it. So what I mean here is you are not building popular cars. You're not building cars that people want to buy. That's what I mean. And Uchida-san, my question is as follows. After you became CEO, did you ever visit dealers and plants? My Nissan car. I have been owning this car for 7 or 8 years. Before that, I was a Toyota user. And Nissan dealers' employees are saying that they don't have cars that they can sell in the market. That's what Nissan dealers people are saying. Don't you think? Aren't you embarrassed? As a representative executive officer, I mean, of course you cannot improve profitability in this situation because you don't have a car that people want to buy. According to your presentation, in next 18 months, you are delivering at least 12 models. That's what you said in your presentation. Even if you introduce 12 models one and after another, and for 10 years, you didn't go through any model changes. I mean, we haven't seen any model changes, and you're seeing the results. That is why you don't have cars that attract people. And prioritization and focus. Nissan, I thought it should be about EV, which is the strength of Nissan. But you didn't talk much about it, did you? If you look at Toyota will be releasing EV, I understand. And for 10 years, Nissan has been selling EV, if I understand correctly. And your sales volume, what's the sales volume of your EV? How much share do you enjoy? Because it's not user-friendly. People are not buying your cars. It's about autonomy. It's about driving range. I think driving range is the issue. So please improve this point. And at the extraordinary shareholders meeting, Uchida-san, you said that share price at the time was 494 yen per share on February 28th. It was a prior day of the extraordinary shareholders meeting. And on the 6th of April, it was 311 yen, which was the lowest price. On Friday, it was 408 yen, 408.60 yen. And I said, you are taking responsibility when the share price fall below 500 yen. That's what you said in the general meeting of the shareholders. So what's your reaction now? Thank you. Thank you for your question, sir. At the extraordinary shareholders meeting, I remember what I said. I said if Nissan's performance does not improve, please fire me, I said. Please dismiss me. That's what I said. And this policy remains unchanged. It's up to the shareholders and customers to decide. And you asked several questions. Nissan Motor. Next month, we are releasing new EV called Ariya next month. Nissan's strength will be demonstrated going forward. And this Nissan Next is a plan that will enable Nissan to deliver strength. But based on the lessons learned, we are rationalizing the size of the organization, production capacity, and ensuring financial discipline. For the time being, we are impacted by COVID-19. Therefore, we are setting forth a challengeable sales volume, and we are aligning our capacity organization to the challengeable sales volume objective and bring Nissan back on growth track. And we have a product pipeline, and this product pipeline will be releasing vehicles going forward. So on July 15th, with the project Minato, in Minato area, we are going to make an announcement of a new model equipped with new technologies of Nissan. So you can count on Nissan.
それでは
Moving on to ticket number 13. Please, excuse me. Hold on. Going back to my question. Uchida-san, did you visit your dealership and manufacturing plants? You didn't answer the question. Since I became CEO in December, I went to all the plants in Japan and I saw dealerships. I went to dealerships. On the 2nd of December, I made an announcement. First, I said I promised to visit the Gemba. Not only myself, but COO Ashwani Gupta-san went to all the operations and plants and listened to the voice of employees and identify the issues and challenge of Nissan and the environment in the past. And after listening to this, we devised the Nissan Next. And what's your opinion? What's your reaction? What's your impression after visiting the locations operations? Naturally, Nissan people are very talented and strong, and they are motivated to make Nissan brand better. And the top management's job is to work together with the employees as a one team. And unless we are working as a one team, we cannot grow Nissan brand and restore confidence of the customers. That's what I rediscovered. And I will carry this out and make it a reality. What I told you is that dealer employees are complaining that they don't have any cars that people you can sell. That is why from tomorrow we are starting the sales of Nissan Kicks e-Power. And in the Japanese market, we are releasing new models. In the past, in the Japanese market, we couldn't launch new models. This is a lessons learned. So going forward, Nissan will change. Nissan will change. In other words, new car launches are too late. You're too slow in launching new models. So you have to work very hard here. Otherwise, just like the other questionnaire, in 2 years, Nissan may disappear. Please make sure this doesn't happen. Please work hard. Thank you for your opinion.
それでは
Okay, ticket number 13. Ticket number 13. Please give us your attendance number and ask your question. 66 is my attendance number. My question is very concise, so I have 4 questions in total. I'll be very short. However, please limit yourself to 1 question per person. My question is very short and concise.
ではまず
Okay, I'll try. By using solar battery, you are connecting Nissan Leaf and you have to collaborate with housing builders. What's the policy or projection of the global deployment of the collaboration with house builders? This is my first question. And FCV, what's the present situation investment? Some people are trying to freeze the investments or withdraw from FCV, but in China, there's a strong belief in FCV. So EV development in ICE and EV will be limited, or will you work on FCV? And Waymo, you are collaborating with Google and Waymo. This is separate from the development of other vehicles at Nissan. There's no report on the progress on this partnership. Where are you today? And I'm sure it's very difficult to resume dividend payout. And do you have any outlook to organize a reception parties after the shareholders meeting going forward?
ありがとうございます。もちろん
Yes, as you said, going forward, we will recover performance of the company if COVID-19 settles down. After the shareholder meeting, we would like to create opportunities where we can interact and receive your comments. And as you said, the Chinese market. Of course, we are working on e-power under the strategy of Nissan Intelligent Mobility. In China, Nissan enjoys big presence, so we can count on these efforts. And the rest, solar battery, the collaboration between Nissan Leaf and house builders. Here, Hoshino-san, could you give details to the extent that we can disclose, or shall we bring it back as a homework? And for the strategy going forward, I would like to refrain from making comments on the further details. So within the extent that we can disclose, we would like to give you an answer in writing. How about autonomous driving? You have a partnership with Waymo, but is it separately developed? We have a MOU with Waymo with regards to the technological development, and this has been announced 2 years ago. And going forward, considering the laws and regulations about autonomous driving in countries, we are considering what kind of business model we can establish, and we are building the policy now. As you may know, for the autonomous driving or driverless technologies, laws and regulations differ depending on the countries, and not only Nissan, but we are considering partnering with different entities in deploying business. Once we are ready to make an announcement, I would like to communicate the details. Thank you.
それではすでに十分な質疑を
As a full discussion on the subject matters of this meeting has been carried out, we would like to close the Q&A session and proceed to take a vote on the proposed items. From this point forward, we will only be taking a vote on the proposed items. Please understand that we will not accept any comments, including any motions. Now, I would like to proceed to take a vote on the proposed items. The vote will be based upon your applause and shareholders voting, which occurred prior to the meeting by voting forms and the internet, as well as those who voted by power of attorney. We would like to take a vote on the item, which is election of 12 directors due to expiration of terms of all directors. I would like to express your affirmative votes by applause. Thank you. I declare the item approved as proposed by a majority of shareholders. Thank you. We have concluded all of the items set out for today's general meeting. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of the shareholders for your serious deliberation and your valuable time. At this time, I hereby declare the closing of this 121st Ordinary General Meeting of Shareholders of Nissan Motor Company Limited. Thank you very much for your participation today. In order to practice social distancing and prevent many people from gathering around the exit, please remain seated and wait for our staff to usher you before leaving. Let us show you a closing video while waiting. Thank you for your kind cooperation.